What is going on, everyone? This is Nova here. I'm going to jump straight into it. Today's topic, we will be talking about the downfall of Halo and how it is a cautionary tale. Alright, so first I'm going to assume that people watching this video are Halo fans immediately, so I'm going to briefly talk about what made Halo great in the first place, and then I'm going to go into kind of the transition period from Bungie to 343 and obviously how they ended up ruining it. But this video is based on the assumption that you already have a basic understanding of, Halo in general. So, again, I'm assuming we've all played Halo, we've played the originals, we've played the newer games. There is a stark difference between the two. My point with this video isn't necessarily 343 ruined Halo because of this or that. My point, what I'd start off with is I'd say Bungie established a character and a soul with the original three Halo games. They created an identity. Um, they established this because they had a vision for what they wanted. After Halo 3 was released, there was kind of a falling out between Bungie and Microsoft. Microsoft is the big bad corporate boogeyman. They want to milk their cash cow for as much as they can. Bungie, of course, they're the tortured artists who have their vision of what their art should be. And of course, they're the ones who made them all the money, But Microsoft, being who they are, want to maximize profit. So of course, they're pushing Bungie to make these new Halo projects and pump them out faster and faster to get them to the fans because they know it's a guaranteed moneymaker at this point. That's the setup that kind of caused the breakup between Microsoft and Bungie. Eventually, Bungie had enough, and they were like, "Look, we want to have our own artistic vision and not be we don't want our artistic vision to be meddled with the way that Microsoft is trying to do." So long story short, lawyers get involved, whatever. But eventually, Microsoft and Bungie agree to settle on Bungie will create two more Halo games, and then they're going to sell the IP to Microsoft. So Microsoft will own Halo after Bungie makes two more games. And those, of course, became Halo 3 ODST and Reach. 3 ODST is obviously many people would consider a DLC game, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, after 2010, Microsoft owns Halo, so they need to find new developers to, perpetuate the series, keep it alive. And so then they form 343 Industries, 343. There are some employees who did come from like Bungie and stay. They wanted to stay with their baby, Halo. But the majority of 343 was formed by new employees who had nothing to do with Bungie or the original vision of what Halo was before, Microsoft took over fully. So these new devs, newly hired by Microsoft, get together and they're like, okay, how do we bring Halo into the new generation? How do we carry the torch, essentially, that Bungie has passed us in this proud stallion of a franchise? Well, their solution was let's completely throw it out the window and do something new. Let's completely piss all over their legacy and make our own thing because we think we're the best. We think we're awesome. And that's what they did. So I'm having trouble finding the specific video I'm thinking of, but there are videos that exist on YouTube. I'll link in the description the closest one I could find. But there are videos on YouTube where the developers explicitly say during their development of Halo 4, they explicitly say they hired some of their employees who did not like Halo, and that was part of the reason that they got hired, was because they did not like Halo. And they wanted to create a game that non-Halo fans would like. People who were not a part of the franchise at all, people who already weren't really fans, they wanted to create a new game that these people would like. In other words, they wanted to completely sell out and create something new to appeal to a wider market. Again, they're run by Microsoft now. They're owned by Microsoft. So profit is number one on their minds. That is the most important thing at the end of the day with them. How do we maximize profit? How do we squeeze the most money out of our new cash cow? So I want you to set aside the specifics. If you're a part of the Halo community, you understand the debates. They've been going on for 15 plus years now. It feels like Sprint, the art style, design philosophy, customizable classes, whatever. Those specific things get debated, ad nauseum. by Halo fans, pro 343, pro Bungie. Set all that aside. What killed Halo and what ruined Halo was fundamentally the passion of the developers. Any true art, books, movies, video games, any art you can think of, what makes that art great is the passion of the person creating it. It's the beauty of creation. What 343, why they were doomed from the get-go, was their fundamental difference in how they viewed Halo as a, not as a product, but as an art form. So very simply, Bungie was creating Halo and perpetuating it because they loved it, because they wanted to nurture their baby. They created this amazing franchise that millions of people love and felt a connection with, and they wanted to foster that connection, foster that relationship between fan and developer. 343 slash Microsoft saw it as, this is a franchise people love. We can milk this. Let's make some damn money off of it. Let's really up the ante here. Let's make money, and that's what killed the franchise. Again, they sold out. They were complete sellouts. They had no artistic vision. They had no passion for anything related to Halo. The only thing they were passionate about was the bottom line, was profit, money. So anyway, back to the point. When 343 took this route of let's make as much money as possible, they alienated the Halo fan base that already existed. They went out there seeking all these new fans. Oh, we're going to grow the base. We're going to appeal to all these new people. We're going to make Halo bigger than ever. And when they did that, they completely drove away the fan base that already existed. They completely alienated the millions and millions of people who already loved Halo for what it was. Those people had nothing anymore. There was no Halo that they loved because the Halo that exists now is something new. It's some abomination Frankenstein that doesn't have its own home. There's no base that exists for. So with Halo 4, 343 pretty much ripped off, in all of their infinite wisdom, they pretty much got a bunch of hacks together to create a game, and they just ripped off Call of Duty completely. They ripped Sprint, which never should have been in Halo, kill streaks, customizable classes, all these Call of Duty mechanics that already existed because they wanted to woo the Call of Duty fans. Like, hey, you never liked Halo, now you should check it out. We got kill streaks now. We got customizable classes. So again, Halo fans no longer have a game they can call their own. And did these Call of Duty fans who did see Halo 4 and saw that they added all these mechanics, did they come over to Halo and start enjoying that because that's their new thing? No, absolutely not. They just stayed playing Call of Duty because that's what they liked. That was their game. They're not going to just magically like Halo because Halo has Call of Duty mechanics. Same with Battlefield, same with any other game that it copied. The funny irony of all this is you wanted to woo these new fans over and bring them over and entice them to play your game, but they were never going to leave their game in the first place. They weren't going anywhere. Okay, there was no doing that. And I think, and this is my own speculation, but I think instinctively people kind of feel that themselves. You can kind of feel when something is cheap and soulless when you interact with it. Art. Again, not always. There's plenty of crappy art that gets really popular for whatever reason. But I think deep down, a lot of people can kind of feel when something is made with ill intentions. Even if people can't describe it or articulate it, you can kind of feel it in your soul. You're like, this is garbage. Some things are garbage, some things are really well made, and I think a lot of people can feel the difference. So anyway, Microsoft nukes Halo. Halo is dead now. It's very sad. It took me years to kind of come to terms with that when I was younger because I grew up on Halo. It was part of my childhood. Anyway, why do I title this video Halo is a Cautionary Tale? The reason is because I believe Halo is a perfect example of what not to do in your own life. So what do I mean by this? What I mean is as I mentioned earlier, sometimes people can kind of feel when art is made with ill intent, it's made cheaply. That may be true sometimes with art, but it's 100% definitely true with people. We all have an instinct to fit in. And we have a want, a need to fit in as people. We're social creatures. We want to feel a connection with others around us, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that being said, many people make the tragic error in their lives of changing who they are to fit in. So they mask the parts of themselves that they perceive people or they think people will not like, and they try and bolster the parts of themselves that they think people will like, or not even bolster, but they'll just create new things within themselves that they think people will like. In other words, these people sell out. They conjure a new version of themselves that they think the world will accept and appreciate. And this is extremely tragic because it doesn't work. It doesn't happen. Take Halo as a perfect example. Halo tried to change what it was to appease more people, appease a new audience, and it got flat out rejected by everybody. No one liked it. It's a Frankenstein, as I said, that is now dead. And it's in a way, it's well deserved. I'm sad Halo's dead, but they sold out and they tried to change who they were and they got completely screwed for it, as they should. And so, obviously, I think it's a good lesson. It's a cautionary tale, as the title of this video states. Of course, real life is very different than the downfall of a video game franchise, but I think the patterns are similar. There's something to be said for the principles of what I'm talking about. Um, you change who you are. You don't lean into what makes you unique. You reject it. You get rejected as a result. That is the pattern, the lesson to take away from this. What you should be doing as a person. Again, don't listen to me and let me tell you how to live your life, but find out what makes you unique and different and special and lean into that. Because if you don't, maybe you can fool some people with your fake personality, but at some point you're going to realize as a person that you are fake. You've created this image that is not aligned with who you really are, and you're going to be really sad and feel empty inside. So either, and again, that's only if it works and you don't get rejected by everyone for it. Either way, it's a losing proposition. I pity the people, the millions of people out there who live and die without embracing who they truly are. There are many prisons in this world that are not physical. Most of the prisons of this world exist in the mind. And I believe it's our, not responsibility, but in a way I think it's kind of our responsibility as people to try and break through these prisons in this life while we still can. I truly think step one to breaking through is embracing and accepting who you are. Not running away from it, not rejecting it, embracing you as a person. Again, I'm not saying you can't work on yourself. We all have plenty of work we need to do on ourselves. That's part of life too. But step one, it's really hard to work on yourself and improve yourself if you also don't, love who you are and embrace the the soul that is you. So before I keep rambling on and get too preachy on you, fundamentally just look at Halo, look how they rejected a great thing that they had in, in pursuit of something else, something that was potentially greater, I guess. Look how Halo fell on its face and died, and extrapolate that to yourself. Don't do that. don't do that. Lean into you, lean into your own special qualities, and good things will happen. At least that's what I think. Don't lean into those things. Reject yourself. Run away from your qualities. Run away from makes you unique. Makes you unique. Bad things will happen. I think very simply that's what I'm trying to get at. Each and every one of us has something to offer this world that only we can offer. I truly believe that. and I think you owe it to yourself to pursue whatever that thing is relentlessly. I believe our collective light gets brighter for every person who does fully embrace who they are, who's able to self-actualize. And the world collectively, our collective light gets a little dimmer every person who's not able to do that. All right, so before I get too preachy on you, I want to wrap this up. But I appreciate you for watching if you made it this far, and keep an eye out for future content. My next video, I have no idea what it's going to be as of right now, but it'll probably have nothing to do with Halo. It'll be something else. I'll circle back to Halo at some point in the future because I still do love it, even though it's dead. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and Nova out.